I will say, I don't think Mr. Skywalker, who doesn't talk about Star Wars, I don't think he was planning on doing that. He just wanted to cause a scene and wanted to stare down, which he's done to me, stare down, James Gunn to be noticed or something. I don't know. Ridiculous stuff. Ridiculous stuff. James Gunn actually followed it up by saying, just ignore the toxic fans, ignore all this, ignore all that. Again, sometimes I'm just like, James Gunn, you don't have to respond to everything. Jimmy Guns, you don't have to respond to everything. But, he does. He does. And, a lot of people actually appreciated that he responded to this. If you guys remember in the last couple of weeks that we were talking that there's been a certain someone in the crazy Snyder fandom, not the Snyder fandom. I always want to emphasize the fact that the Snyder fandom, the normal people in the Snyder fandom are all, there's a lot of people in the Snyder fandom that are just normal peeps, all right? They're just normal peeps. If they don't like the new stuff, they usually just keep quiet. There are some that have kept quiet, and then all of a sudden when Superman came out, then all of a sudden they started saying things, which was kind of disappointing. For the most part, the Snyder fandom is, and that's usually every fandom, but there's always that loud minority that is part of every fandom that just goes above and beyond just to be loud and obnoxious. And then sadly, we gravitate towards the negative too much because that's just in our genetics or something like that. But obviously we were talking about that certain individual that decided to go to Comic-Con and go to the Hall H Peacemaker panel, basically trying to glaze himself up, saying that he infiltrated the panel, which was no infiltration. It's not like he snuck in there. He waited in line and paid money. So he did that, and then of course he was trying to stare James Gunn down. Really ridiculous. Same individual who followed me to the bathroom in the Rebel Moon, during the Rebel Moon premiere, just to see what would happen, and blah, blah, blah. So James Gunn somebody on Threads said, so the guy who thought running up on James Gunn at SDCC was a good idea, your daily reminder that these are just movies and you're not a freedom fighter in a war. Gunn and Snyder both have no idea you exist. James Gunn, and this wasn't even directed at James Gunn, so I was like, come on, man, you don't have to respond to this. It wasn't directly at you, but again, it did tag, I guess they tagged Superman, so I guess he was looking at Superman tweets or threads or whatever the hell. I certainly didn't notice anyone running up on me. Now, I will say, I don't think Mr. Skywalker, who doesn't talk about Star Wars, I don't think he was planning on doing that. He just wanted to cause a scene and wanted to stare down, which he's done to me, stare down, James Gunn to be noticed or something. I don't know. Ridiculous stuff. Ridiculous stuff. James Gunn actually followed it up by saying, just ignore the toxic fans, ignore all this, ignore all that. If you see something toxic online, my advice would be don't interact with it. Attention only, attention only, I think he meant fans. Okay, fans, sorry, I was reading that wrong. Attention only fans the flames of online toxicity. It's one of the reasons I primarily on this platform. It isn't because there are fewer toxic people here, although there seemingly are. He's talking about Threads. Obviously, Twitter is a madhouse. It's the wild, wild west. It's because it started as an online culture where more willing to let the toxic personality in the back of the room shout himself hoarse and go away. When you shout back, you're making that voice relevant. You're giving it a soundboard. You are the midwife helping to birth the toxic voice into the world. You're helping to make a few thousand angry voices seem like millions. And to be clear, when I'm talking about toxicity, I'm talking primarily about rage and cruelty. I'm not talking about not liking something or having reasonable arguments about things we like and don't. Anyway, forgive the PSA, but it's on my mind. So yeah, so maybe he was aware of all that. Yeah, it's interesting. But, but at the same time, it was a nice little PSA, obviously, but, it's never going to, and it's one of those things too, where I've had conversations with friends where they think that, both Zach and James need to address. And I've even seen some of the diehard Snyder fans go, what the hell? James Gunn, you should be acknowledging your toxic fans then. There was literally a diehard Snyder fan that glazed himself up saying that he went somewhere personally in real life to cause a scene. Okay, and this is not the first time. So when that actually happens from one of his fans, yeah, maybe there could be some kind of acknowledgement. But when it's just like noise online, there doesn't need to be an acknowledgement. This individual wanted to make it a point to cause a scene in real life. That's the thing. That's the difference between that and then just shitty people online.